What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. Thank you for being with me today. We are on the eve of the 2025 NFL Draft live from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I wish I was going to be there. Some of you have asked if I would be there. I'm not going to be able to go, unfortunately. I just got back from a trip, which is why you guys are getting a podcast on Wednesday instead of Sunday. So on today's episode, we're going to talk over some different paths that the Packers can take here in the first three rounds. So, maybe it's going cornerback in round one. Then what do they do in round 2 and 3? What if they go edge in round 1? What do they do in 2 and 3? So on and so forth. Then I'm going to answer some common draft questions. Some of them I've been asked myself. Others I've seen different beat writers and draft experts asked from Packer fans and other fans. And then at the end of this, we're going to do the final round 1 prediction. But before that, I want to give you guys 20 names to watch from my big board. And then when we get done, I'm going to link the big board to the podcast description. It's a Google Doc. You guys can go to it and use it to follow along to see who the likely Packers might be in this year's draft. So let's start with talking about round 1. So Goody had his press conference on Monday, and he was asked by, I don't remember who it was, whoever it was asked a great question, basically around what if the player that they're interested in doesn't have any athletic testing. And we've been talking this entire time, guys. The Packers love traits, and Goody said as much in this press conference. He did tell one of the reporters, whoever asked it, if they don't have testing, it, quote, certainly changes things. And he also said that it hurts the player, which, again, kind of proves the point that the Packers really do care about the athletic testing. So I think it's fair to take off anyone from the first round consideration who doesn't have testing. So guys like Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, and others, Savone Revel, who I really like, cornerback. I don't think they're going to take any of those players that don't have any testing. Now, some of them, like Shamar Stewart and Emeka Egbuka, they have 90% of their testing. They don't have all of it. I think that'll be sufficient enough. That being said, I think that it's going to kind of take things for a bit of a spin, and I'm interested to see how they react to this. I think it's going to take some of these players off the board is what I'm trying to say. So let's go over the first part of this podcast, which is who are the most likely picks in round 1. I'm going to go through a full list here, but let me go through like the short list first. Obviously, we have Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart, if he's there at 23, I think the Packers are going to run the card up. You guys probably remember from the Edge episode, right after they did the combine testing, Shamar Stewart scored a perfect 10 RAS. And at that point, I was pretty convinced that he wouldn't be even an option for the Packers in round 1. As the dust has settled a little bit, some of the production concerns have come in to play, and a lot of people have been, souring on him a little bit. So if you look at Daniel Jeremiah's draft board, I believe he's in the 20s there. Dane Brugler has him in the 20s. There are a lot of draft experts who I really, trust who don't have him as this top 10, top 15 player like I do. That being said, when I did the Edge episode, I said there's no way in hell that he's going to make it to the Packers. It's looking more and more like he might. And I've run a lot of scenarios. I've run a lot of mock drafts. I've probably done, please don't judge me for this, guys. You're going to think I'm a total geek on this. I've probably done 150 mock drafts in the last 6 weeks. And in a lot of those, Shamar Stewart is there at 23. So I have to imagine he's on that short list. He has the highest ceiling of any pass rusher in the class. And by all accounts, he's a really hard worker. I think if he has the right coaching, he can make a really big impact. I think he can actually make an impact right away. Kenneth Grant is the other one. Like Stewart, it's possible he could be gone before the Packers pick at 23. I look at a team like the 49ers. They need a pass rushing defensive tackle. There are a bunch of other teams in front of them who I think could probably be in the running for a guy like Kenneth Grant. That being said, he is a tier 1 Packer fit to the T. He is literally going to be someone they think highly of. He's going to come in right away and replace TJ Slayton, probably be that run-stuffing nose tackle. He has an extremely high ceiling, and I think that his pass rush skill, he hasn't even tapped into it yet. So I think Kenneth Grant's on that short list for round 1 picks. Number 3, Emeka Egbuka. Yes, this would break the Packers receiver streak. He has done all the testing. The Packers had him in for a 2-day visit, not just a visit. They did a workout with him, private workout in Lambeau, or in Green Bay, I should say. I think that he is the best chance at taking a receiver in the first round since probably, I don't even know. If you guys listen to my wide receiver episode, I don't think that they have any sort of philosophical issue with taking a round one wide receiver. Man, say that again. I just don't think that they've had a chance to take the guy they wanted. You look at 2020, right? If you look at Packers types in 2020, there was Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and then there was Brandon Ayuk. All those guys were taken before the Packers picked. They were never going to pick T. Higgins, no matter how many people thought that they should or whatever. I mean, I still hear it all the time. You know, Packers Twitter says it all the time. I've heard literally people in my family who said, yeah, they should have drafted T. Higgins. The Packers were never going to take T. Higgins, guys. Even if they didn't take Jordan Love, if they wanted to take a receiver there, it was more likely they would have taken Chase Claypool or Michael Pittman Jr. They were never going to take T. Higgins, and they never had a high enough grade on Pittman Jr. or on Chase Claypool. So I don't think there's any philosophical reason why they wouldn't take a receiver. If Emeka Egbuka comes in, he's a fantastic blocker. We've talked about that. He can play outside. He can play inside. He's a good route runner. He can catch. He never drops anything. I think he has upside of a really high-end number 1 or number 2 wide receiver to a, mid-tier top 10 receiver in his ceiling. They don't have a guy like that right now, okay? We can sit here and say all we want. They have great receivers that just haven't hit their ceiling yet. I would actually say that right there. But Egbuka is somebody who can come in right away and make a big impact. So I think Egbuka is someone we really have to look at on the short list. I think he's going to be there at 23. If the other guys are gone, we have to think Emeka Egbuka is going to be pretty high on their board. Next guy, Max Hairston, the cornerback from Kentucky. Sorry. He has some sort of off-field issue. I don't know much about it. I'm not going to sit here and talk through it. I know that it happened when he was a minor. So, again, I could be wrong on the specifics here. I think it was a breaking and entering situation. Again, terrible. We'll see how much of an impact that has on him. I've only recently come around to the possibility that he'd be a first-rounder. My initial apprehension with him is the fact that he's only 183 pounds. That was what he weighed at the combine. But he's 6'1". There's definitely room to add some weight. He plays a lot tougher and bigger than that. He's got really long arms. I think that Max Hairston has the highest ceiling of any cornerback in the draft. He ran a 4.28 40. He's really, really good on the lateral agilities as well. He's got a great back pedal. He's a really willing tackler, but the reason that he's not slated for a surefire round 1 wide or cornerback is because of the fact that his tackling is terrible. So the fact that he's a willing tackler makes me think that he can learn it and could become a good tackler over time. But I think Max Hairston is someone we need to be looking at the end of the first round at 23. Number 5, Derek Harmon. Yes, I just started the episode saying that there's no testing for Harmon. I think Derek Harmon is really, really, really good, and I think he's going to be really good in the NFL. Of all the defensive tackles that are in this draft that could come in right away and play for the Packers, I think Derek Harmon has the highest chance of making an impact early. So again, it's pretty clear on testing or pretty clear on camera when you're watching him that even without the testing, he's super athletic. He's big. He's quick. He has a really high ceiling. But I think the big thing to remember with Derek Harmon is he has the highest floor probably of the entire defensive tackle class, including Mason Graham, by the way. So I think that you have to throw him in here in the top 5, even though he doesn't have the athletic testing to back it up. I said it before a couple weeks back when I did the defensive tackle episode that I thought Derek Harmon would be somebody who, if I were to bet money, would be the highest probability of being a Packer. It's never felt right in my gut that he would be the Packers pick in round 1, but I think we have to talk about him. So in terms of the top 5 most likely, we have Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, Emeka Egbuka, Max Hairston, and Derek Harmon. What about Will Johnson? Really, really quick, guys. Will Johnson, if you listen to my cornerback episode, I talked about him ad nauseum. I love Will Johnson. People who I trust, Brian McFadden, he works for CBS Sports. He is a really, really good analyst. He talked about how he thinks Will Johnson is like Pat Surtain level, Sauce Gardner level. and that he's getting slept on in this draft. More and more mock drafts have been showing that Will Johnson is going to fall in round 1. He's not going to be a top 10, top 15 player. If he's there at 23, no matter who else is there, you have to pick him. You have to. This would be my dream scenario. I think Will Johnson can become like top 5 corner in the NFL good. The only concern that he has is his speed. But when you look at next-gen stats, some of the stuff that they've done, he's been clocked at 22, 23 miles an hour several times. In the 2023 season, which was his best season, he shut down some of the top receivers in that class. Don't have the names in front of me, but it happened. He can play man, he can play zone. He's a good tackler. He's got great length, size. I think that he is somebody we have to think about, we have to consider in round 1. Okay? So let's talk through all of the names that I think have a probability. So I'm going to put these into different tiers. Tier 1 is possible but unlikely. First, we have Tet McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona. Possible but unlikely. Tet, the Packers spent a lot of time with him. They brought him in for a 30 visit. They went to his private workout, all that stuff. We've talked about it. It looks like he's probably going to be a top 10, top 15 guy. I don't think he's going to be there when the Packers pick. Calvin Banks Jr. from Texas. He's a guard tackle convert. He's probably going to be a top 10, top 15 player as well. He's probably the only offensive lineman that I really like for round 1 as a fit. There's Jahdae Barron from Texas as well. I ultimately think he's going to be a slot safety guy. I don't think he's going to be an outside corner. Packers have way too many of those guys anyway. And just to be candid, I don't think he's going to be there either. Then there's Josh Simmons from Ohio State, the tackle. I think Josh Simmons, if he didn't have the knee injury this year, he would be like a top 10 player in the draft, maybe higher. I would not hate this if the Packers were to select him in round 1. They brought him in for a 30 visit, right? Probably just a medical check. But I do think we have to consider the possibility that Josh Simmons would be picked in round 1 by the Packers. Again, had he not had the injury, I think we wouldn't even be talking about this. He'd be a top 10 player in this draft. If the Packers are comfortable with his injury, with where he's at in the recovery process, you got to consider him here. And then, you're probably looking at moving Jordan Morgan to guard. I don't think Josh Simmons can play guard. Again, no one that I trust has said anything about that. Very interesting idea, and I would be open to it, right? Jordan Morgan would have to be moved. He'd move to right guard probably. And then you'd have a really, really strong offensive line like starting next season. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas. I think it's possible but unlikely there. We have Omarion Hampton, the running back from South Carolina. Quinshawn Junkins, the running back from Ohio State. And Nick Imanwari, the safety from South Carolina. So the last 3 I went over there, Hampton, Junkins, and Imanwari. We talked about in the running back, safety, tight end episode. Those guys are highly unlikely, but if some of these players that don't have testing are the only ones that are available, and some of the guys that they do have testing on, a Stewart, a Nolan, Stewart, Grant, whoever, start to fall off their board, I wouldn't be surprised if Hampton, if he's there, the Packers are going to give him a hard look. I've soured on Quinshawn Junkins a little bit in terms of his first-round possibility, but I really like the player. He's an interesting guy. So that's tier 1. Again, possible but unlikely. Let's get to the most likely guys, okay? This is tier 2, a.k.a. the most likely Packers. We have Kenneth Grant, we just talked about. Walter Nolan. Mykel Williams, I don't think he's really, to be honest, he's probably not going to make it to the Packers. He's getting some top 10, top 15 buzz. Shamar Stewart, we talked about him. Emeka Egbuka, Derek Harmon. Trey Amos, the cornerback from Ole Miss. Savone Revel, cornerback from Eastern Carolina. And Max Harrison, the cornerback from Kentucky. So again, this is the most likely Packers for the first-round pick. This is a list of, I believe it is 9 guys. Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Mykel Williams, Shamar Stewart, Emeka Egbuka, Derek Harmon, Trey Amos, Savone Revel, and Max Harrison. Out of that group, we can probably eliminate Savone Revel, only because of the fact that, small school, he's coming off the injury, he's a little bit older, he doesn't have any testing. I think we can probably, take Mykel Williams off the board just because I think he's going to go a lot earlier than the Packers. Again, if he falls, I would be happy about it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Walter Nolan doesn't have testing. I think he's going to go higher as well. So that's where I got that list from earlier. Trey Amos is the other guy we didn't talk about in that top 5 most likely. I do think it's possible that he goes in the first round. I think the Packers are going to be interested in him too. He's definitely a tier 1 fit. Okay, now let's talk about sneaky guys who the Packers could pick in round 1 that are more likely round 2 guys. Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. We talked about Tyleik Williams. He's a run-stuffing menace. I think he has a chance to be really, really good in the league. I don't like him in round 1 because at this point, he's not shown that he can be a good pass rusher. And you're probably 2 to 3 years away from him being a good pass rusher at least. So I don't think that that's something that I'm remotely interested in for round 1. If he's there in round 2, you run the card in. But I don't think he's a round 1 guy. That being said, this tier, the likely day 2 sneaky round 1, let's go back and look at some of the previous drafts, right? If we look at 2022, Quay Walker fell into that category. Somebody who's consensus second rounder who became a first rounder. Eric Stokes in 2021, good example. I think he was 45 in the consensus board. The Packers picked him at 29. Look at 2023. Hold on. Is it 2023? No, sorry. 2024 with Jordan Morgan. He was not considered a first-round pick. He was, I think, 39th in consensus board. Packers picked him in round 1. So this group here that I'm going over, I think there's a possibility that any of these guys could be picked in the first round by the Packers. So again, Tyleik Williams is number 1. JT Tuimoloau, the edge from Ohio State. He's probably a round 2 guy, but I think it's possible that he could be a round 1 guy. Some analysts I really respect really like him, and they like the potential of him being in the first round. He's also a tier 1 fit for the Packers. Landon Jackson, the edge from Arkansas, he also is a tier 1 fit for the Packers. I would be really upset if they took him in round 1. I don't like the fact that he's super tall and skinny. Yes, he can add some size. Yes, he was a Senior Bowl guy. He was good at the Senior Bowl. He played really, really well against the better tackles and the better competition this year. But I'm just really nervous about his play strength, quite frankly. So I would be really upset if they took Landon Jackson in the first, but we have to talk about it. There's a chance. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver from Ohio State. This is interesting. Jaden Higgins is a tier 1 fit all day for the Packers. He's not going to be there in round 2. A lot of people, I don't want to pee in anyone's Cheerios here, but a lot of people have been talking about how he is the Packers can get him in round 2. He's the next great wide receiver round 2 guy the Packers pick up. I don't think there's a chance in hell that he makes it to the Packers in round 2. If I'm wrong and he's there at 54 and they take him, guys, you can replay this. You can tell me I'm an idiot. You can tell me I'm wrong all day long. I'll take it. I'll eat the crow. I'll be really, really happy if I'm wrong on that. But I do not think Jaden Higgins is going to be there in round 2. That being said, I would not be surprised if they have a round 1 grade on him. Production's there. He doesn't drop balls. He tested off the charts for the Packers' athletic thresholds. Really, there's no negatives from him, right? Nothing that would keep him from being a round 1 type for the Packers. So again, we have to keep him in the back of our minds as well. And the last one's TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. They brought him in for a visit as well. Super high RAS. He's a tier 1 defensive tackle fit for the Packers. Very possible they have a first-round grade on him as well. So to go over the likely day 2 sneaky round 1 picks, Tyleik Williams, JT Tuimoloau, Landon Jackson, Jaden Higgins, and TJ Sanders. So I'm going to go through all the possibilities, round 1 possibilities. We're going to go to the tier 1 more time. Possible but unlikely. Ted McMillan, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks Jr., Jade Barron, Josh Simmons, Matthew Golden, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, and Nick Emanwori. That's the guys who possible but unlikely to fall. Tier 2 most likely, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Emeka Ibuka, Derek Harmon, Trey Amos, Savone Ravel, and Max Hairston. And then tier 3, the likely day 2 sneaky round 1. So again, Packers pick from these guys a lot. Tyleik Williams, JT Tuimoloau, Landon Jackson, Jaden Higgins, and TJ Sanders. So that's kind of the short list of names we need to be talking about. So let's go through a couple of just quick scenarios. If they take a cornerback in round 1 as scenario number 1, this is the one I like the least of these possibilities, okay? If they take a cornerback in round 1, it's going to be Will Johnson, Max Harrison, or Trey Amos. Maybe Savone Ravel. He's the least likely of this group. Maybe a Benjamin Morrison, right? He'd probably be a top 10, top 15 pick if he didn't have the injury this year, but hip injury has to make the Packers nervous. I don't think he's on their board. So if they go corner in round 1, I think they can go edge or defensive tackle in round 2. So maybe scenario 1, I put Max Harrison, JT Tuimoloau at edge in round 2, and then round 3 they snag Ty Felton, the wide receiver from Maryland. So in this scenario, they go corner in round 1, they get their edge defensive line player in round 2 with Tuimoloau. Maybe they go Jordan Birch in round 2. If TJ Sanders is there, they could go that route. Alfred Collins is a guy from Texas I like in round 2 as well. But I like, in this scenario, them going wide receiver in round 3. So if they go cornerback round 1, they're not going to be able to get a good defensive tackle or edge in round 3. They're going to have to go edge or defensive tackle in round 2. So that is probably my least favorite scenario. Scenario 2 is they go wide receiver in round 1. They break the streak, everybody's happy, but then what? In this particular situation, I picked round 1, Emeka Egbuka, round 2, Darian Porter, the cornerback from Iowa State, and then round 3, Joshua Farmer from Florida State, defensive tackle. In this one, this is an interesting scenario. Going receiver in round 1 is probably unlikely, right? But it would probably be Egbuka in this particular situation. Maybe Matthew Golden. If Ted McMillan is there, they'd probably run the card in. Round 2, going Darian Porter. After Darian Porter comes off the board, it gets steep really quick. And a lot of the good cornerback options are gone at that point. Okay? That being said, I think Darian Porter, even though he's old, right, he's going to be 24 this year, 25 this year. He's a freak show athlete. If I'm the Packers, I think I would take a chance on Darian Porter. He matches everything. He's a Senior Bowl guy, tested with almost a perfect 10 RAS. If he was 22, he'd be a first-round pick, right? So I like that scenario here. Maybe you go, Alfred Collins, TJ Sanders, and then you go cornerback round 3, and you take Noah Williams from California. But scenario 2, I like it better than scenario 1. Scenario 3 is my favorite scenario, and this is the one that they should do. They go defensive lineman in round 1. That's Kenneth Grant or Shamar Stewart. Round 2, they go receiver with Jalen Royals from Utah State. And then round 3, they grab their cornerback in Noah Williams. This is the one I would prefer to do. We'd all love the Packers to take a receiver in the first round. I think this is the highest probability yet of any of the drafts in Goody's era. But they need an impact defensive lineman, whether it's defensive tackle or edge. Get that early. Get that in round 1. You keep your good wide receiver streak alive in round 2. You get a good round 2 wide receiver like they have for my entire lifetime. And then round 3, maybe you can snag another defensive lineman, like a Josh Farmer, Elijah Roberts, Savion Jones from LSU. In this particular situation, though, in round 3, I put Noah Williams in here, but you could go and do a defensive lineman here as well and double up, right? So let's go through some commonly asked questions. Who's your draft crush? One that realistic Packers, and then some guys who aren't realistic. I'll go realistic first. Okay, I'm not going to say this is realistic, but Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State, if he's there in round 2, I think they take him for sure. He's a massive draft crush of mine. I think he has a chance to be just as good as Genty, maybe just as good as Omarion Hampton. I just think this guy's ceiling is sky high. And if the Packers were to take him, guys, I would be elated. However, they probably aren't going to take him. Number 2 favorite wide receiver in the draft is Matthew Golden. I think he has perennial 1,000-yard receiver tattooed on his face. I think Matthew Golden can be as good as he wants to be. People have been talking a lot about how his 4.28 speed is kind of a fraud. I think part of that, and a lot of people have been saying this, and the more I've watched the tape, the more I agree. Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, underthrew so many passes this year, guys. He was also dealing with a toe injury. I think that some of the speed, the lack of speed, is situational. I don't think it's truly because he's not 4.28 fast. I think he is. He runs great routes, got great hands, and he's just not even close to his ceiling. He's got so much good football left to learn. Number 3 is Shamar Stewart. I'm not going to talk about Shamar Stewart anymore. I think he can be a superstar in this league. I love him. Number 4 is Jalen Royals. He does everything well. He could come in and be a vertical threat right away. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. He does everything well. Like I said, I really, really love Jalen Royals. And number 5 is Jordan Birch, the edge from Oregon. Big fan of his. I think he's probably going to get picked in the 30s, maybe the early 40s. I think he could end up being one of the better edge defenders in this group, in this entire draft. So these are all the guys who are Packer fits-ish. The guys who they will not take that I'm in love with. Obviously, we have Genty and Hunter. I'm not actually as big of an Abdul Carter fan as everybody else is in the draft community. I think that he's a little bit, I don't want to say he's overrated because that's probably wrong to say, but I do think that he's not as good as people are saying. I don't think he's as good as Chase Young was. I don't think he's as good as Anderson from the Texans. Will Anderson, sorry. There are other guys too that I've heard his name mentioned in the same breath of that I don't think they're just not that good. Mike Green, I think he could be the best pass rusher in this draft as well. I love Mike Green. I think Mike Green's better than Abdul Carter. You heard it here first, guys. Donovan Izaraku, I like him a lot too. He has high bust potential. He's not the athlete that Shamar Stewart is, or even the athlete that Mike Green is, but he's got those spider arms, 34-inch arms, but he's only 6'2". He's in the 240s. He's not big enough. The Packers are not going to take him, guys. If they do, again, I'll eat the crow, but he would make me nervous. The 4th guy, draft crushes the Packers won't take, is Kyle Williams, the Washington State wide receiver. I love Kyle Williams. He's going to be a second-round pick probably. I think he could be really, really good in this league. He can separate. He can run. He can catch. Great route runner. If he was taller, if he was 6'2", the Packers would be definitely interested in him, but at 5'10", it's not going to happen. Players I'd be disappointed with at 23. Number 1, Walter Nolan, just because he's a little bit redundant with Devontae Wyatt. If the Packers are going to bring back Devontae Wyatt, which Goody said that they were this week, I think getting Walter Nolan, just one of them has to be on the bench. I don't think both of them can play next to each other all the time, maybe in obvious passing situations. But as much as I like Walter Nolan, I think he's going to go before the Packers pick, by the way. There's already been some rumors about the 49ers. I know my cousin and I were talking about this too. The 49ers are probably going to be interested in him. I like Walter Nolan independent of Devontae Wyatt. If the Packers were to move on from Devontae Wyatt, they draft him and then they don't sign Wyatt, I'd be really happy with that pick. But context matters. Landon Jackson would be a reach in round 1. They get him in round 2, I'd be super happy. I still think there's like this sneaky possibility that the Packers will pick him in round 1. Not a fan of that. I have soured on Landon Jackson more and more the more I've watched him, the more I've heard people talk about him. He's getting some first-round buzz. I've already seen him mocked to the Lions a few times, the Eagles as well. That's only just a little bit further up where the Packers are picking. If Landon Jackson gets picked at 23, I'd be pretty disappointed. Tyleik Williams, too, I think would be a reach. I think it's possible they could pick him at 23. We talked about him earlier in the potential round 1 options. I'd be disappointed if that happened. He just hasn't shown the pass rush chops that I would want to see for a round 1 guy. I don't think that he's near as good as Kenneth Grant at rushing the passer right away. I think Kenneth Grant is just as good at run defense. I don't know. I would not be happy with that. Really, the other thing, this is kind of a cop-out answer. Anybody that's in that round 2 range that we're looking at in the 60s, 50s, and 60s on the consensus board, I would be pissed about. I will tell you guys this. Many people have reported on this. I just saw a tweet about this. I think it was from, I forgot who it was from. Might have been Albert Breer from SI. It's pretty widely considered that after pick 15, like the top 15 players numbered 15 to 60 are pretty much all graded the same on people's boards. And there's a ton of variance this year. So would it be the biggest deal if they got a guy who's 42 on the consensus board at 23? No. But again, I just think it's important to, would they take Jordan Birch in round 1? Like, I think it's possible. Would they take JT Tuimoloau in round 1? Possible. Would they take Azariah Thomas, the cornerback? Maybe. I'd like him in the second round, hate him in the first. So there's a few guys that I just don't like in round 1 that I'd be really happy with in round 2. Who would I be most excited about at 23? Will Johnson. I don't want to sit here and say it again. I think Will Johnson can come in and start immediately next to Keyshawn and Nate Hobbs in the slot, whoever. If it's not this year that Will Johnson starts, he's going to be a high caliber corner next year for the Packers. I would be ecstatic. I'd be super pumped if they picked Tet McMillan if he got there. I think Tet McMillan is a top 10 player in this draft. And the fact that he's being talked about as a faller because of character issues, I think the Packers have done the research on that. They will probably pick him in the event that others pass on him for, he's gotten some criticisms, guys, for being like not super into watching film and training. I think that's a load of horse crap. Nobody is as good as he is without watching film. Just because he has a life outside of football doesn't mean that he's, doesn't like football or whatever. So, and then obviously Shamar Stewart, I'd be super stoked about that. I would actually be happy too if the Packers pick Jaden Higgins in round 1. That's probably a little bit of a reach, but we have to be prepared for it. He could be this year's round 2 guy who goes in round 1, like Quay Walker, like Eric Stokes, like Jordan Morgan. So honestly, my answer here would be Will Johnson. Probably him and Shamar Stewart would be number 1. I'd be happy if they picked Ibuka. Kenneth Grant, I'd be happy with, but I wouldn't be ecstatic about, right? Okay, this one's a fun question. Who's an underrated Packers fit that no one's talking about? Number 1, cornerback Bilal Coney from Western Michigan. He's a day 3 guy, but he's a perfect Packers type at corner. Super competitive, really aggressive on the field, super athletic. He's got good size. I think that Bilal Coney is going to be a Packer. You guys remember his name right now, Bilal Coney, Western Michigan. He's going to be a Packer. Savion Jones from LSU, the edge player. No one's talking about him. I think he could go as high as round 3 for the Packers, maybe even round 2. He's a tier 1 Packers fit. Oh, guys, you guys know I talked a lot about this guy in the edge episode. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, the edge from Georgia. I was on him pretty early. Nobody else was talking about him, and except Titletown Talk. Thanks, guys, you're welcome, guys, for bringing him into the fold. Just kidding. But we really did talk about him early. Super freak athlete. Started out as a D tackle, so he's got some versatility there. Probably a round 4 earliest to round 5 guy, but I think the Packers are going to have him high on the board. No one's talking about him. I would throw, what's his name into this? Ty Robinson into this, the defensive tackle from Nebraska. He's not quite a tier 1 Packers fit. He's a little bit on the light side, but I think he's a freak. I would be stoked if Ty Robinson was a Packer. So he's not a perfect fit, but he's pretty close. Last one, Cam Horsley, the defensive tackle from Boston College. He played under Jeff Hafley. He would instantly come in, guys, and he'd be a run-stuffing defensive tackle for them. And I think you can get everything out of him that you could get out of Tyleik Williams in round 1. So anyway, last question. Out of the 4 need positions, that's cornerback, edge, defensive tackle, wide receiver, which is the least likely that they address early? I want to start this question out by saying this, and I want you guys to remember this. They have been nonstop, and this could be subterfuge, right? It could be just to throw off the scent, right? But they've talked about all offseason how they think they have the right guys on the defensive line to get pressure with 4 and do what they want to do, accomplish what they want to accomplish. I disagree, but it's very possible that Shamar Stewart or Mykel Williams could be on the board in round 1 and they pick a receiver or a corner or an offensive lineman even. I think it's very possible that they don't take an edge or defensive tackle in round 1 or round 2. The sweet spot for edge is round 1 and 2. After that, it's like rounds 5 through 7. There are a ton of Packer fits in the defensive tackle area that we'll get to later in that later range. I think they're going to take a receiver for sure between round 1 and round 4. I would guarantee it. But to answer the question, what's the least likely they address early? It's corner. Okay, they have a few guys. We talked about them already. Max Harrison, Will Johnson, Trey Amos, right? But then everybody else really has a lot of ifs there or buts, right? Benjamin Morrison, yeah, he's great, but hip injury. A.Z. Thomas, yeah, he's a great fit, but he's slow. Max Harrison, yeah, he's small. Will Johnson, yeah, he's slow and he has a knee injury. Darian Porter, yeah, but he's old. So there's a lot of yeah buts here. So they could literally look at these corners in the face and just pass. And then you get to some later guys who are really, really good fits, like Jason Marshall Jr. or Bilal Coney or Caleb Bransaw. There's a few other guys I like too that we'll get to another time. That'll be on my big board, by the way. But I think it's possible that they don't address corner early. They have 3 guys who they feel comfortable with right now. They have Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, and Nate Hobbs. And then the 4th guy is their slot corner, Javon Bullard, right? So, again, it's very possible that corner is not even picked in the top 4 rounds in this draft. But again, this draft is probably the most unpredictable, crazy, batshit draft, pardon my French, that I've ever followed, covered, done anything with. Of course, the year I start a podcast, we have the craziest freak show draft that I can remember. Go figure. Okay, official draft predictions. I'm going to give you guys 20 names. I think the Packers are going to draft 5 to 10. Sorry, I'll say 5 to 7. 10. They don't even have 10 picks. Duh. These names are the most likely Packers. I think they're going to pick at least 4 to 5, maybe 6 of these guys. Okay, Kenneth Grant, Shamar Stewart, Savion Jones, the edge from LSU. Elijah Roberts, the edge defensive tackle from SMU. They had him in on a visit, and he was a Senior Bowl guy. So check. Torrey Horton, the wide receiver from Colorado State. They had him for a visit as well. Jalen Royals, wide receiver from Utah State. By the way, Utah State, where Jordan Love played, he was asked about Jalen Royals this week, and he was stoked about the idea of playing with him. He was a Senior Bowl guy as well. Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas. You guys know how high I am on him. Another guy that I've been talking about since early March that now everybody's talking about him. Got to say, Titletown Talk, we were on him early. Ty Felton, the wide receiver from Maryland. I think the most likely of the wide receivers to be a Packer is Ty Felton. Senior Bowl, check. Production, check. He's fast. The only thing that he doesn't check for Tier 1 is he's a little bit on the light side. But 4.37 speed. Again, Senior Bowl, the Packers brought him in for a visit, so that really does check all the boxes. I think Ty Felton could be a Packer. Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle from Florida State. Anthony Belton, the guard tackle from NC State. They brought him in for a visit, and he was a Senior Bowl guy. So really, really high probability for Anthony Belton. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, the edge from Georgia. Ty Hamilton, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. I really like Ty Hamilton, guys. Look him up. Dane Brugler has him as a top 10 defensive tackle in this draft. PFF didn't even have him on their board. I don't even know if they still do. So keep an eye on Ty Hamilton. I think he could be a Packer as well. Cam Horsley, the defensive tackle, Boston College. We talked about him. Caleb Ransaw, the cornerback from Tulane. Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle from Georgia Tech. Bilal Coney, the cornerback from Western Michigan. We talked about him. And now the run of offensive linemen. They're going to pick one of these guys for sure. Logan Brown, the offensive tackle from Kansas, also was a Badger, by the way. Caleb Rogers, the guard from Texas Tech. Joshua Gray, the offensive guard from Oregon State. Marshall Forner, the offensive tackle from Minnesota State. Last but not least, Jacob Bayer, the offensive guard from Arkansas State. That is a guy they brought in on a visit as well. So out of that list of 20, I think we could see 5 to 7 of them being Packers. And we'll see how well I did. Right, guys? We'll see how well your boy did. So like I said, going to link the big board that you guys, the Titletown Talk big board. I'm going to link it in the podcast description below. So if you guys want to check that out, it's viewable for everybody. Let's see how many names we got right. Last but not least, we're going to narrow it down to 2 players. My official prediction for round 1 is going to be Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M. I know some of you, I know my cousin and I were talking about this, I know some of you do not like Shamar Stewart. I want you guys to think about this for a second. Shamar Stewart is the most athletic defensive end since Myles Garrett. He's the freakiest athlete that we have seen since Myles Garrett. No, he did not have a lot of sacks in college, okay? But I want you guys to do me a favor if you're concerned about this. Look up the sack totals, the highest amount of sacks in college football the last 20 years. Look up the leaders in that category. And let me know if you see anybody on that list that's any good. The only one is Von Miller, right? Production in college does not equal production in the NFL. They're drafting these guys for who they're going to be. And I think Shamar Stewart has a chance to be special. Donovan Ezeraku, who I also love a lot, He had 16 sacks last year. I guarantee you guys right now, Shamar Stewart will be better than Donovan Ezeraku in the NFL. Okay? So, if you're worried about Shamar Stewart, I get it. I totally get it. Look up the work the Justice Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company has done on Shamar Stewart. I felt the same way as you guys did. When you look at, just Google Justice Mosqueda, Acme Packing Company, Shamar Stewart. And there are tons of articles he's written. He's done videos on it, breaking down the tape. I don't want to sit here and pretend like I understand this completely, so I'm going to quote him and not myself. Texas A&M does a lot of crazy, weird stuff on defense. They were not running a pro-style defense whatsoever. Those edge players were not just like pin your ears back and rush the passer. They have to protect against the read option. They are not just on true pass sets, putting their nose down and rushing. They're just not. So that being said, that also makes the argument for the people who are nervous. Shamar Stewart has never done what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. But if you trust the coaches, which I do now, did not trust Rebrovich, by the way. If you trust the Packers, I think Shamar Stewart can come in right away. He can rotate with LVN. I think they can put him on the inside a little bit. They can move LVN and Stewart around a little bit. Shamar Stewart will have an impact right away. He's my official round 1 prediction. Honorable mention is Kenneth Grant. Okay? The only reason I'm doing an honorable mention here is because I want to have some credibility if I'm wrong. Just kidding. I think Kenneth Grant is equally as probable, if not more probable, than anybody else outside of Shamar Stewart. Kenneth Grant, again, I would not be super pumped about it. I'd be cool with it. If they drafted him, I'd be like, cool, I get it. I think it's a smart pick. But I'm not over the moon excited about Kenneth Grant. If they got Shamar Stewart, I would be. So to recap, my official prediction for the round 1 pick tomorrow night is Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M. Okay, let me go through the list of most probable first rounders. Shamar Stewart, number 1. Kenneth Grant, number 2. Emeka Egbuka, number 3. Number 4, Max Hairston. And number 5, Derek Harmon. Will Johnson's the honorable mention. Remember all these names. And let's have some fun tomorrow night. I am beyond excited. I can't believe I have to work tomorrow. I'm just going to pray it goes fast. Send to all the vibes my way that it goes fast, guys. And we will be back on Friday to review whoever the Packers picked in round 1. If it's Shamar Stewart, your boy's going to be really, really happy. If it's Tyleik Williams, I'm going to be pissed. Or Landon Jackson. Sorry. I know I keep hammering this home over and over again, but I'm really, really excited to see what route they go. So Friday we'll do a recap of Thursday night, so round 1. We'll also do a recap of Friday night on Saturday morning. And then on Sunday, we will recap the entire draft. Every player they picked, what kind of fit they have for the Packers this year, predictions for that player. And then we are in off-season mode, and I got to start thinking about what I'm going to do for content. Hopefully you guys will still be listening at that point. I appreciate you listening today. Reminder, I'm linking in the podcast description my Packers big board so you guys can follow it and start checking names off and start seeing how close we got this year on all the fits. So I will see you guys on Friday morning. Go Pack, go.